It felt good, brother.
Yes,
It felt like I was getting out of prison.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Have you ever, man, look here, have you ever been, oh, there goes the brother. All right.
Brother Minister Lee. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on, my brother.
Oh, praise due to Allah. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother, you know, we started Real to Real maybe that's about a month ago. Hold on. Give me a moment, son. Hold on. Give me a moment. We started Real to Real about a month or so ago. And Brother Damon and I, we started having a discussion about relationships, about our relationships, and about some things that maybe we could have, if we would have known, maybe we could have done better. Some things that we started having to take accountability for and looking at how our relationships went. And so it started this general conversation among us two about things that we would tell people younger than us or people who are in relationships that maybe they could do differently. For you, and last week we talked about the subject of the science of mating, which had a lot to do with mate selection. As we reflected back on our life, as we reflected back on the things that we did wrong or personality differences that we had. And so we started this general conversation. And Brother Damon thought it would be a real good idea to have you on, and I agreed with him. And so here you are, sir.
All praise due to Allah.
Yes, sir.
And plus, you sparked that conversation on a Wisdom Wednesday. You talked about the science of mating, and that's where we built from that. And I said, you know what? I got to bring my local representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Brother Lee, on and let him talk about it because he's the one that sparked that interest, and that'd be very good for you to break it down. You know, especially for the younger males, or even not even older, for all younger or all males, period. We all need to know this, especially those that's single, those that been married, or those that want to be married. We all need to know the signs of mating, because one thing we think, and I heard this from Christians, they think equally yoked is the signs of mating. and they think equally yoked is in the same faith, and that might be true to be in the same faith, but there's more to it.
Yes, sir. Well, brother, again, brothers, thank you for having me. And I was telling Brother Damon that the same day he asked me to be on this program, I just so happened to be going through YouTube and I saw this program.
Yes.
And lo and behold, later that day, he texted me and asked me to be a part of it. And I said, well, I would be honored to be a part of that because I think it's a timely subject. It's good to have.
Yes, sir.
And so, and I remember, Brother Damon, we were discussing a message to the black man under the section, who is the original man.
That's right.
And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was talking about how we have been deprived of the science of economics. We've been deprived of the science of mating and chemistry. He mentioned chemistry as well. And he said these are the things that a free and independent people need to basically make progress. And we have not had these things to make progress. And so any civilized nation that is serious about moving its nation forward and making a greater contribution to a civilized society is concerned about the children that they ultimately produce from the union between the male and the female. Now, when you look at this, the subject of the science of mating, science denotes not by chance. Right. Science denotes by reasoning. Okay, reasoning has to be involved. Okay, we just can't throw the dice up in the air and hope it land on a 7 every time. It's not going to happen like that. Right. Science denotes that you have to have some thought about it. You have to have reason about it. You have to have some planning involved. And so when you start talking about relationships, okay, before two people can come together and have a successful relationship. For anybody who is not married yet or have been married and it didn't work out, my advice to them is always this. The advice that I gave myself after I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in 1989. Okay. And that advice that he gave and I took to heart was, if you are alone, take that opportunity while you are alone to get to know yourself. Okay. To get to know yourself, what you plan to do with your life, where you plan on going, to have knowledge of yourself, what makes you tick, what pushes your buttons, what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, so that when you are actually trying to select a help meet, then you know what you're looking for. Okay. So the minister said it's like love at first sight, which is really, there's no such thing as really love at first sight. There is, okay, I had an idea of the kind of woman that I needed or the type of woman that I wanted, so that when I meet that person, all of those qualities that I was looking for are in that person, and they call that love at first sight. But it really has a history of the human being, the man, having an idea of what he was looking for. And when he found it, he said, that's what I was looking for. So the science of mating, it begins with the man. Okay. Because the man is the one that has to make the choice. The man is the one that will ultimately be the head of the household. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that the woman is always trying to equal herself up to the man.
Right.
Okay. So we have to always be in perpetual progress, trying to better ourselves and reaching higher heights, so that our woman that we choose as a mate will help us meet our goals and our objectives. And so the science of mating is not simply, okay, I like the way you look. Okay. You're fine. Okay. But just because a woman is fine does not mean that that woman is refined. Okay. And so you have to look for a refined woman. Okay. Because a nation can rise no higher than this woman. And the institution of marriage is the basic institution, and it's a key institution. Okay. In Study Guide 19, the Honorable Ms. Louis Farrakhan teaches us that the woman is the key to the kingdom of God. Now, Brother Damon may know this, but I'm gonna share this with everybody else who may be listening, is that I learned how to be a locksmith, right? And I had to learn how keys and locks worked. So if you say that marriage is a key institution, if you say that the woman is the key to the kingdom of God, then what is a key? What makes a key able to unlock something that's locked against you? Okay. So keys have to be made. They have to be formed. They have to be fashioned in such a way. They have grooves in them that have to be cut in alignment with the bolts that are coming down from the lock. And if it is cut properly, when you insert the key, those grooves will push those bolts up until all of those bolts are even. They call them tumblers, right? You push the tumblers up to the bolt, and then if they're all even, then you can turn the lock and it doesn't get stuck, because one tumbler may be down lower than the other one, or one may be up higher than the other. They're all level. Okay. So mating begins with the reformation of the woman and how important the woman is, because she's the key. 75% of the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was with the woman. But the man has a role in that, because the man has to be careful about his health and the quality of the sperm that he produces. Do you know Caucasian people spend millions of dollars for the sperm of a thoroughbred horse, so that they can take that sperm and breed other thoroughbred horses? Okay. Now, it's interesting that during the time of our sojourn on the plantation, it was convenient for Caucasian people to practice the science of mating, okay? But they did not teach us that science. So what they did was they found the biggest, strongest stud that they can find, and they sent him around to different houses and different plantations to breed slaves, because at a certain point, the transatlantic slave trade became illegal, but they needed more slaves. So they wanted to produce strong, tough slaves that can endure. So they found those strongest ones who had the strongest endurance, and they purposely breeded them so that they can produce stronger slaves. So now it's not convenient for them to do that. So now we have to teach ourselves this science. So the man, he, like I said, he has to get to know himself and he has to work on himself, because the actual origin of the sperm is in the head. Okay. The gases in the head condense into water. The water goes down the spinal cord into the testicles and produces the sperm. So the quality of that man's thinking plays a major role in the overall IQ and intelligence of the child that is produced. So if you have a man that knows nothing and he meets a woman that knows nothing, I'm pretty sure you may have seen these t-shirts back in the day that say stupid people shouldn't breed.
Right, right. I remember that.
Okay. Well, hey, I ain't trying to be funny, but there's some truth to that. Okay. You gotta feed your brain with the right knowledge. And you gotta make sure that the woman has the right knowledge. If she doesn't have the knowledge, before you start producing a baby, you need to give her that knowledge.
Right.
Okay, make sure she has the same knowledge. Make sure she's exposed to the same information you're exposed to, so she can start feeding on that. Because after you create or produce the sperm, and the quantity of the intelligence of that sperm, once it enters into the womb and contacts that egg, now the woman has to take it from that point. And whatever she thinks is impressed on the mind of that child. Okay, but again, this is science. We're not just hoping that we're going to have a giant. You know, we have to go through the process of proper mate selection. Okay, this is a woman that likes to, she likes to study. She likes to take care of herself. She's intelligent. She's willing to she's open to learn. Because some of our people can read, brother, but they just don't like to. Okay. So what Brother Damon said before about being unequally yoked, okay, it starts there. Okay, because the scripture says that light cannot have fellowship with darkness. Right. Okay, so if you're a man that likes to study, you like to read, you like to elevate your consciousness, and then you meet a woman that does not like to do that, then that is unequally yoked. Right. Okay, if you're a man who likes to exercise and a woman doesn't like to exercise, that's unequally yoked. So you have to be careful about your mate selection and what you're looking for. Okay, because you don't want to be brought down. You want to go up and you want to bring her up with you. Right. Okay, so mate selection is yes, on the surface level, you see somebody and you're physically attracted to them. Okay, and usually, brother, if we love ourselves, okay, then we're going to be attracted to somebody that in some respects reminds us of ourselves. Okay, now Brother Damon mentioned this today at the Rosh. I don't know if he knew how deep it was about how we think it's successful if we go out and get a Caucasian woman. Okay, but what does that say about your love for the woman that produced you? For you to not want a woman that looks like your mother. You understand what I'm saying? You want a woman that does not look like you. Okay, so you're looking for somebody that has experienced the same thing that you and I have experienced as Black people in America. You want somebody that understands our struggle. You want somebody that understands our pain as a Black man and knows that they need to help us to meet our goals and our objectives. So first, you're attracted to somebody physically on the surface level. But in the Nation of Islam, we have something called student enrollment. And in that student enrollment, we study the circumference of the planet Earth, right? And then later on in the lessons, in Muslim lesson number 2, you start talking about the diameter. Okay, so now you're going inside. Okay, you may know the circumference of this woman, the shape of her form and all that kind of stuff. But it's only when you get to the diameter and start going in that you really get to know the person. Right. And that's why communication from the time you meet this person to the time you've been married for 30, 40, 50 years, communication is always the key. Okay? Because if you meet somebody and if you don't have a proper communication, then something's gonna fall through the holes doing what you call courtship. Oh, I don't remember you saying that. Oh, you never told me that. Right. Yes, because you never asked. Okay? So communication is 70% of communication is actually listening. Right. It's asking the right questions to get a response that you need to make a proper decision.
Right.
Okay, so you listen, you ask the right questions, you get the right answer, and then you say, okay, I believe that this woman or I believe that this man can help complement me, and we can work together and create a family and then move our nation forward, right? And once you make that decision to move forward, then the actual the process of actually bringing new life into the world comes into effect. Because ultimately, no matter what this world says, brothers, the primary objective for genitals is not to be worshipped. It is for procreation. Okay? Now, God just so happened to make sex pleasurable and gave it as a means to find comfort, right? If a man works hard all day, he created the sexual act as a way for consolation and comfort. But ultimately, the first reason for it is procreation. And so as Muslims, and even if you're a Christian, you should do this, but you should go to the sex act not with a mind of lust. You should go to the sex act with the mind of God. And I know this may sound strange, but in a Muslim's life, we begin every important event with the words Bismillah. Bismillah means in the name of Allah. And if you study the scriptures of the Bible and the Holy Quran, you always see where Zechariah and Mary and Elizabeth and all the old prophets, the mother of Samson and the mother of Jeremiah, all these mothers and fathers and the fathers of David, they all prayed for offspring.
Right.
That would carry on their legacy. Right? So what they did in the name of Allah. Because again, if you approach the sex act, you say Bismillah, right? In the name of Allah, right? Then you're going to it in the proper mindset. Okay? Because you don't want to produce a child that's highly sexually charged, right? You want to produce a child that is inclined toward God, right? So whatever atmosphere is created during the sex act, during conception, that atmosphere has an effect on the inclination of that child that is being produced. Okay? So you must be clean, both physically and mentally, before you approach that sacred sex act, because it is in fact sacred. Everything about what we're talking about is sacred. Choosing a mate is sacred. The sex act is sacred. The marriage, the institution of marriage, all of this is sacred, which means that God has ordained this, but we have to do it in God's way and not our own way. Right. Okay? And so once the child is conceived, then the Almighty Elijah Muhammad taught us we have to stand on guard and make sure that her mind is protected. She shouldn't go to funerals where there's a whole bunch of crying, people falling out on the floor, whole bunch of grief. She shouldn't go to movies and watch all of these movies where people are getting shot up and killed and whatnot. Because again, whatever the mother thinks, it is impressed on the mind and the thinking of that child. And watch this. The first thing to be developed in the womb is the ears.
Wow.
Right? That's the first thing to be. You have a head and then it develops the ears. So the first organ that they begin to use inside the womb is the ear. So we have to be careful about what music we allow to be played around a pregnant woman, what movies she's allowed to see, because the child is taking this all in right now. And, as grown folk, we can see a movie and start, we wonder, they cussing all through the movie. And the next thing we cussing too and wonder what we got it from.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
It's what we feed on. It's what we feed on. So to create a powerful sperm, you got to feed on good food. The minister say if you're planning on producing a strong child, then you should not smoke. You should not drink. You should not use drugs, because this damages the sperm cell and it produces weak children. Our grandparents and great-grandparents were much stronger than we are today. Okay? I mean, they had all kinds of disease, measles, chicken pox, viruses, and you name it, they had it. Mama just went to the kitchen, got a little contraption to compose this little potion together. Right? Castor oil or whatever, drunk it, you good.
Right. See? Right.
But
Come on.
Now we get a little microscopic coronavirus, man. We just be falling apart.
Right.
It goes back to the quality of the sperm cells. So we've been eating bad, weak food, processed food, and we're producing weak sperm. And we're producing weak eggs. So before you mate, you know, make sure that the woman you mating with has the knowledge. Make sure that she's eating the proper food, because you want to produce a child that will move our nation forward. And so that's basically, in a nutshell, the science of mating, right? It's about, you know, when you meet somebody, you're always looking for, you know what, I feel the same way. You know what, I feel the same way. You're not looking for somebody that will argue with you, and they disagree with everything you say. Right. Everything you say. You know, you looking for somebody to say, yeah, I like that. And I like going to opera. You know, I like going to movie. You know, but as soon as you start seeing those red signs, and somebody, because everybody ain't for everybody. It's somebody out there for everybody, but everybody ain't for everybody. Okay, so that, beloved brothers, is the science of mating in a nutshell. And if you have any questions for me at this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You brought up so many wonderful points about just the mate selection process. And this came up maybe about 6 years ago between me and a brother in San Antonio. He mentioned that, well, we have several soulmates, and that you never know, the person that you're looking for could be somewhere very close to you, but they don't always have to be somewhere far away. But then that brought up the idea of, well, how much does God play in terms of, you know, we personally, we have a choice to make as knowing ourselves, but how much does God play in bringing that person to us? Would you speak on that, and how we find the balance between our personal will and then, you know, how God places people in front of us?
Yes, sir. What thoughts come to my mind is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the lecture called The Knowledge of God. He said, when you get close to God and you know God, then you'll recognize God in a hint, in a sign. You'll know when God is trying to tell you something, okay? Because you're always looking for him and looking for his guidance. So the role that God plays is this. You know, the Holy Quran says that the adulterer is for the adulteress. The fornicator is for she who fornicates, right? So these are like minds, okay? The believer is not for the adulterer, right? Or vice versa. So God brings people into your atmosphere, into your environment, right? And you have to recognize when God has sent something your way. Now, the role that we subconsciously play, dear brother, is this. In the physical world, unlike attracts and like repels. In the physical world, you have a physical magnet. If it's unlike, unlike will attract. If it's two likes, they're going to repel. That's in the physical world. In the spiritual and mental world, it's just the opposite.
Wow.
Like minds attract one another. Okay, so you can be out at a movie theater and you can go get you some Raisinets, right? And it'll be a woman in front of you trying to get the same Raisinets you trying to get, and you feel something about this woman. And this woman feels something about you, and y'all get to talking and find out y'all got so much in common, but you didn't realize that on a subconscious level, your mind brought you together.
Wow. Yes, sir.
Wow.
You just have to recognize when God had brought somebody into your life. See? So the adulteress for the adulteress, right? The believer is for the believer. You know, like minds or for like minds.
Yes, sir.
You know, but again, as the minister said, we just got to worry about first getting close to God.
Yes, sir.
Right? And then we'll recognize when God, as they said on The Color Purple, we'll recognize when God is trying to tell you something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow. Brother Lee.
Yes, sir.
Brother Minister Lee, you know, my mother always say, son, you're picky, but you're not picky enough. Sad but true. I've been married a couple times, and all my ex-wives has been MGT. And I asked myself, not to say they're bad sisters, maybe like you said, no, maybe. We were not compatible, but just because we in the same faith, because we thought like the Christians, because we in the same faith, we equally yoked, and we went ahead and got married, you know. Man, my question is, because the minister said this was a few years ago, he said the divorce rate in the nation is as high as America. And I know because of the pandemic, the divorce rate in America is a lot higher. But my question is, how can we in the nation, because we're taught, and it says in the Quran, marriage is half our faith. And the minister said a man without a woman and a woman without a man is handicapped. He says, like us walking on one leg.
Right.
How can we find the proper mate in the nation in our faith and stay married when marriage is half our faith?
All right, brother. Listen. For better or worse, I was not registered in the nation when I got married.
Mm.
I was a 5%er, which means I had the knowledge of self. I did visit the mosque, which means I was able to get a lecture by the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan called Keys to a Successful Marriage. Brother, I listened to that tape over and over and over until the tape popped. You know, like Biggie used to say, to the tape pop.
Yes.
And, we used to get a screwdriver and open it up and get some Scotch tape and put it back together and just keep on listening, okay? But that, brothers, was my premarital counseling.
Wow.
That's all I had. The problem, Brother Damon, is, when I counsel married couples and I start quoting Minister Farrakhan or quoting Honorable Muhammad, and I look on their faces, they shaking their head like, yeah. They know that. They know everything I'm saying. So what's missing? Why are you having problems? See, when you said that faith, or marriage is one half of our faith, this is why some people may get a divorce and fall away, because when you get married, it's not just your marriage that's on display. It is your faith that's on display.
Oh, that's deep.
Okay? And so people, their marriage will dissolve and they will blame themselves and they'll start questioning their own faith.
Wow.
Right? But what happens is, if you have faith, Minister Farrakhan said that we have knowledge, but where our knowledge stops, our faith must take over. See, some people, unfortunately, Brother Damon, they really don't fight hard enough to save their marriage. Both of them. See, the Honorable Muhammad said it's no such thing as a 50-50 marriage. It's 100% and 100%. Right. Right? And here's what happened. When somebody decides to have a divorce, right? And I don't know how you all came to your decision, but I've been married 29 years and I didn't even get married in the nation. And the reason I say for better or worse was because, guess what? I wasn't under no pressure from nobody.
I see what you mean.
Right.
That's why I say for better or worse. I didn't have people trying to play matchmaker. I think he'll be a good choice for you. I think she'll be a good choice for you. Nobody was playing matchmaker. It was my decision.
Right.
And my wife's decision. And nobody else was in my business. You understand? That's why I say for better or worse, because sometimes we be trying to fix stuff and help people and we wind up making it worse.
Make it right. Wow.
Man.
See? So I've been married 29 years, man. And whenever we have to make a decision, if somebody has to make a decision for a divorce, and here's the answer to your question. To make a proper decision, you should take out a sheet of paper and you should make 2 lines or 3 sections. The first section is pros, okay? The second section is cons, and the last section is called fix it, okay? Fix it. All right, not just pros and cons, but pros, cons, and fix it. Because sometimes we'll look at the pros and say, okay, the pros outweigh the cons, so I'm just gonna go with the pro. or the cons may outweigh the pros, and I'm gonna go with the cons. But watch this: if you have a pro, which means something that's positive, and then you come across something that's negative, that this is an obstacle in our relationship, well, then you go to the next section called fix it. What can we do about this to fix this? And if you can fix it, then you can transfer the fix it over to the pro side. Right? And if you can't fix it, then it remains where it is. But if it's something that could be fixed, but see, to fix something, sometimes, beloved, it takes compromise. Okay, it's gonna take somebody willing to make a change. Okay, see, as long as it does not go against our religion and our law, then we don't have to be stubborn. You understand? Now, brother Damon, I'm born under the constellation Taurus.
Me
right?
too.
So
Yeah.
So they tell us, brother Damon, that we bullheaded.
That's what they say.
We stubborn, right?
That's what they say.
But brother, I'm not gonna let no stars dictate to me that I just gotta be stubborn when my wife asks me to do something.
Yes, sir.
For the
Come
sake
on.
of the relationship, I'm gonna have to yield. And say, look, for the relationship, for the sake of the relationship and the family and the house and the children, I'm gonna yield, right? And I'm not gonna be so stubborn.
Come on.
I'm not gonna let stars dictate that to me. You understand? See, by all accounts, horoscopically, if that's a word, horoscopically, me and my wife ain't compatible. If you leave it up to the horoscopes, but we've been married 29 years, but then two people who go by horoscope, they say, yeah, our two signs are compatible, and they don't last 6 months.
Right. Man, that's real talk. Yes.
You know, so it's all about us being able to make sacrifice, to sacrifice some bad habit that we may have, some characteristic that ain't in line with God's, wisdom or way. We have to sacrifice that sometimes, man, and work on ourselves. I mean, it would be easy if marriage was like a car and we just took our car in and got a diagnostic on it and somebody fixed it and gave it back to us. But beloved, when people come to me and say, we need to work on our marriage, we need to fix our marriage, what they're ultimately saying is they need to work on themselves. Because you cannot fix you can't even see a marriage. It would be nice if you could and you just tinker with it, but you can't see that. You can only see two people that make up a marriage. See, so it's self-reflection. So we're gonna have to look at, and I'm not saying that my marriage has been a smooth road. I've learned a lot of lessons, and you know where I learned most of my lessons from? Counseling other people. Yeah, counseling other people, man. And I will study them, and I'll say, okay, and I will go back and I wouldn't do what they did. I would do something different, right? So my grandmother used to always tell me, you can learn two ways. You can learn from your own mistakes or somebody else.
Man, right? That's real.
But Brother Jabril, he used to always tell us this. He said, listen, you'll get a book on everything, okay? When your TV is not working right, you grab that owner's manual, trying to figure out why this thing ain't coming up.
You'll find it.
Like, if the check engine light come on, this may be the first time you reach for it, but you're going to look for that owner's manual to figure out why your check engine light is coming on, how much money it's going to cost, right? So we got books for everything, and we read books for everything, but the most important decision that you'll ever make, he said most people won't read one book on how to have a successful marriage.
Wow.
So when I say pros, cons, and fix it, ultimately, at the end of the day, somebody ain't willing to fix it.
That's true.
And the person that we really have to fix is ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Man. Okay. Brother, so that would be my answer, man.
Have you ever counseled a couple where you found where one wanted to leave and one didn't want to leave, and something you said kind of helped convince them? Is that true? Because I've listened, working in the restaurant industry, I've listened to couples who've been married 30, 40, 20 years, and they talk about, well, we didn't fall out of love at the same time. What do you think they meant by that?
They didn't they didn't grow in love. Okay. See, in the Nation of Islam, we don't use that language that I fell in love. Okay, because when you fall, you go down.
Come on.
And depending on how hard you fall, you may die.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, a fall is a fall. All right. So depending on where you land and how you land, you may kill yourself in a fall. So we don't fall in love and start making irrational decisions. Okay. Our language in the Nation of Islam is we grow in love. Okay. And grow means to go up. What happens, beloved, is that at a certain point, they stop properly communicating with one another. And one begins to do their thing, the other begins to do their thing.
Right.
And as one continues to grow this direction, the other grows that direction. They're not growing together, okay? Because they're not in constant communication that's creating that type of affinity, all right? Because I tell people all the time that when you're courting, before you do anything else, your main objective doing courtship is to become friends, right? And through marriage, you're supposed to become the best of friends. And if this other person is your best friend, then you always want to be with your best friend. You can tell your best friend anything, right? You can confide in your best friend, right? If you have a fallout with your best friend, y'all may not talk for 2-3 days, but 2 days later, hey, look here, man, I was just tripping. You know what I'm saying? You're still my dog. Come on, man, give me some love. So that's your friend,
right?
See? So if your better half is your friend, then you can work through anything. And yes, brother, I have seen somebody say, I want a divorce. And sometimes, unfortunately, and I have to say this, 9 times out of 10, it was the woman saying this, right? I want a divorce, right? And what I found out is that sometimes, brother, I'm gonna say sometimes, they really don't want a divorce.
Right.
They're saying that, and they're using that. And I've seen people go down and get the divorce papers already, and they'll wait till the last day to get it signed. This is the last day. And they say, I ain't going to do it. Because that's really not what they wanted to do in the beginning. They use that in hopes that the man will see the seriousness of where they're coming from and make the necessary changes to save the relationship. See, that's not, look, sometimes that's just you pardon the expression, a trump card. Okay, they're just trying to play a card. You know what I'm saying? But you got to first find out, do you really want a divorce, or can we work this thing out?
Yes, sir.
And if we're gonna work, the way to work it out is we got to start growing together again, right? We're gonna have to sit down and start having a conversation. Look, you in the restaurant business, right, brother?
Yes,
okay. When people sitting at a table, you can look at them and tell how long they've been married.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
Because people who just met each other, they staring in each other's eyes.
Right. Right, that's true.
Always they talking, they can barely eat. They looking at talking, having a good communication. People that have been married for a long time, they on their phone, bring the food, they head down the whole time eating their food because they didn't got so comfortable with the other person.
Wow.
But you should never get comfortable with another person because people are always growing. They're always changing. In fact, they say every 7 years somebody goes through a change.
Yes, sir.
Right? And if you're not in constant communication, you may look up one day and be like, who is this person? Who is this man or who is this woman right here? Because you're different. You're not the same as you were when I first met you. Of course he's not the same as you were when you first met him. Yeah, I hope he has changed.
Yes, sir.
See? But you have to stay, as they say, if you remember the whole words of, we got to stay on the same page, man.
That's right.
We got to stay on the same page. And some of us, unfortunately, we look up one day, we're not in the same book.
Yes, sir. Brother Lee, this program,
we're reading a whole different book.
This program is saying we have less than 1 minute. We have less than one before it automatically shuts off because we only give maybe about an hour or so.
Okay.
For the time that we have, I want to go ahead and give you thank you for coming on with us, with me, Brother Damon, and I. I want to give you the closing remarks on this program today, brother.
The signs of mating. Take care of yourself. Get yourself together. Clean yourself up. When you look for the proper mate, always ask God to guide you to the proper mate, because nobody can choose better than God. He knows you better than you know yourself, because the Quran says he's closer to you than your life vein, which means he knows you better than you know yourself. So get to know yourself, seek God's assistance and guidance, and when you meet the right one, remember, there's no obstacle you cannot overcome